Can you hear me okay there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hang on a second. Aren't you the fucking nutcase who said we should kill all the Pakistanis or something dumb like that? Or you didn't say that, did you?
Yeah, yeah, it was me.
It wasn't you? Oh, that was the other
Yeah,
guy? The other Indian
yeah,
guy? No.
yeah. Yeah. Okay,
You guys all look the same. No, I'm just kidding.
fine.
Anyhow,
So how are you?
what's up?
So I think so I can start a debate.
Huh?
So I think so I can start a debate. Can I
Yeah.
start?
What's your case?
Okay,
This is your challenge, right?
okay. So terrorists cannot be equated or equalized to rebels. Actually, for me, the definition of terrorists and rebels cannot be the same. I saw one of your, I mean, the last debate that you did with Kurshid. The thing is that when I talk about rebels and when I talk about terrorists, the first thing or the first difference or distinguish between, what distinguishes between terrorists and rebels is that one fights for society and other fights for money and power. If I talk about the present terrorist groups in Pakistan, if I talk about present terrorist groups in Syria, or all the active terrorist groups, those groups are working not for society, not for a country, and not against a government, but they're working to acquire money power, they're working to acquire the wealth. And that is the difference. Whereas rebels, they rebel against the government. That is, they try to seek whether the government is doing something right or wrong. And in case they feel that the action taken by the government or the decision made by the government is against the people or it may hamper the people, so they go to the roadside, so they go on strikes. That is rebels. Rebels, you will say it is a 0% case, or you can say 1% case where rebels had to take up arms. But terrorists are always armed. They have always got arms in their hands. But rebels, you will see only a small section of the rebel society take arms in their hands. But the only way to disclose their disapproval to the government, sanction the government agreements is through by protest and not by all this, like all this bomb blasts or all these, stupid things that terrorists do. So the main distinction between terrorists and rebels is that terrorists can be violent in sense, but it is for society. They try to benefit society. Whereas, I was talking about rebels. Whereas terrorists, they try to acquire money power. They try to acquire wealth by terrifying and terrorizing the people. They don't work for the people, but they terrorize the people.
Okay, so a terrorist is only trying to get money and power. They don't have. What if they have stated political goals? What about that?
No, terrorists actually acquires money and wealth. Fine. Other than that, some of the terrorists at present in the world, they are communal based. So they have a particular aim in them. And if I talk about the ISIS, their aim is to what? To spread their Islam all over the world and to just create their own region, own empire. So for that, they require money and wealth. So indirectly or directly, they fight or they try to acquire money and wealth from each other. I was just saying, if they want Islam to spread out all over the world, there are many ways to do. They can just go
But
and spread it. Okay.
Isn't everyone trying to get money and wealth? I mean, you can't have a war without money, right?
Yeah, each and every terrorist is there. Each and every terrorist are doing for that. Each and every terrorist acquires money and each and every terrorist acquires the wealth. Only for that reason they are doing
Well,
so. Yeah, they may have a
that's the,
motive behind it.
by that definition. I mean, wouldn't most governments be terrorist organizations too?
Good
I mean,
question. Yeah, I do agree. Yeah,
every government wants wealth and money. I mean, is there any government that doesn't fit that?
good question. Actually, you see, government is what? People elect the government. When I talk about democracy, I don't know about monarchy and other countries. In India, we have democracy. So when I talk about democracy, it is the government which people elect. So if the government acquires money, that is for the society's benefit. They don't consume the money by themselves. Yeah, corruption will be there. That's a different word. But government takes the money so that it can protect and defend the nation. But terrorists take the money so that they can rule over the particular section. That means they try to harass the people. They don't know for the people. So
Wait,
they terrorists.
hang on. So what if the terrorist organizations call themselves a government? Does that count, or how does that work?
Terrorist organizations can never call them government. I will never accept it. Because yeah, they can call a government in the area they are, but there's a different. There is a bullshitting what if they say. But the thing is that if terrorists can, I mean, if how can terrorists be a government? I don't understand that fact. Because terrorists are there just to, I mean,
Yeah, the only thing that is really required to be a real government is the ability to tax, right? Like that's the only real actual requirement. It doesn't matter like if you have the democracy definitely doesn't matter. There's no social contract, like none of that's real. The only real actual thing that you need to be a real government is to be able to tax people. So for example, the Taliban taxes people. Like they
no,
control certain
I really disagree with your
territory.
point. I really disagree with your point. A government is not only that which taxes the people. No, it's. I really disagree. You see, when I talk about the government, it's something which people select. Government is not only to tax the people.
No, not necessarily. Is that necessarily true? Like, what about North Korea? Is that a government?
It's a government. North Korea is a government, but in North Korea, what the leader is doing, what Kim is doing, he's not doing for himself. He's doing for his country. He has never said that you take my people, you kill my people, but don't kill me. He has never said a statement. Every time he is making nuclear weapons, true, but he is making for what? For to defend a nation. He is not.
So wait, you agree that they don't have to be selected by the people in order to be a government, right? Because that's what you said, and North Korea kind of contradicts that claim.
Sorry, I could not get your question.
Yeah, you said that governments are selected by the people when that may not necessarily be the case. It doesn't have to be the case in order to be a government.
No, every time government cannot be selected because a government has different forms. If I talk about monarchy, that's a king. If I talk about communist, that is one party system. If I talk about the dictatorship, that's also a different form of government. So I was talking about democracy. In democracy, we select the government. Whereas in different countries like in China, the communist parties are there. In North Korea, we have got a dictatorship type. Whereas in Nepal and Bhutan and neighboring countries, we have got the monarchy. So it is depend upon their thing. That in India we can never have monarchy. In UK we cannot have monarchy. In America you cannot have monarchy. So in different countries, different forms of government are there, and according to different forms of government, people try to accept a form of government which they are. So yes, it's true that when you see any country, like if you talk about Nepal and Bhutan, if you say that they have got monarchy as a government form, so they are working against the people. Oh no, it's totally wrong. I have never seen any people from Nepal or Bhutan protesting against the government because the government always tries to speak for the people, always try to see what they can do for the benefit of people. So they are never against the people.
How do you know ISIS doesn't believe that, or the Taliban? How do you know they don't believe that they're doing it for to create a better society? How do you know that?
It's totally worthless. Just say me, but how can people create a better society by killing so many people?
Well, I don't know. Isn't that what we're doing in the Middle East? Isn't that what we're trying to establish democracy, or isn't that what we're doing? We're killing people in the Middle East, ostensibly to create a better society, but probably not really.
I don't have much knowledge about the Middle East. I don't have much knowledge about Middle East, so I don't understand anything. But what you have said about Taliban, that it cannot happen because you say Taliban has never done. I just want to ask you, so what Taliban has done for society? Means I don't understand. How can killing the people be beneficial for a society?
Well, that's the thing. It's a subjective claim. They probably believe they're trying to benefit society. I mean, they probably don't see themselves as bad people. You know that, right?
If they believe, their belief can be strong within themselves, but they're unable to prove their belief. I believe.
That's the thing. Governments can't prove that either. They can't prove that what they're doing is actually beneficial for society. Right?
Yes, they can prove it.
Maybe it is to some people. Maybe it's not. Like North Korea is just a great example in general. How do we know that's actually improving society, what they're doing? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's making society worse.
When I talk about a society, I have to specify a particular nation. The thing is that we do not have any government who rules over the world. we have individual governments for individual countries. If today North Korea is hampering another nation, then I don't think it's a problem of North Korea. It will be a problem of the other country. So you cannot, I mean, you cannot justify that particular term. But I know one thing that North Korea, what has been doing, it has been doing to defend their nation. So from the people's point of view, North Korea's president, or you can see the leader, Kim, is doing for society. So according to the fellow North Korea, he is doing for society. He may be trying to defend his nation by fighting against other countries or by destroying other countries. That's a different thing. But he's trying to do something for his country.
Right,
So
but how is that different from the Taliban? Because they think they're doing the same thing. They think they're fighting for the land of
that's the
Afghanistan.
wrong statement because Taliban, the country in which they are taking, I mean, shelter. In that particular country, they have committed so many crimes. Just same example, ISIS. I don't know much about the formation of ISIS, how it was formed, but I have just when I mean it was been activated or when it has been doing so many crimes. I consecutively I read all the news, so I can understand their motive. Their motive is not to acquire a better society, but to spread the Islam all over the world. Their motive
But
is to rule the world.
wait. How do you know they don't think that's going to create a better society? I mean, they probably do think that.
It's really worthless. We don't require better society under them. If girls are
Right,
getting physically abused by those
it doesn't
criminals,
matter. Like you can't just assert that as an objective fact of the universe. You don't actually know. They probably think they're creating a better society.
if they think that means they're foolish. They're
Right.
really
Well,
foolish to think in
so
that
is the
way.
North Korean government, right? I mean, even I would say even the U.S. government. That's incredibly foolish. There's basically no upside to all of the interventionism that we're doing in the Middle East, and lots of costs. People are dying. We're spending a lot of money, and there's basically no benefit to it from our society's perspective. Maybe oil.
You see, if US is doing something like that, or if North Korea is doing something like that, well, America is not a monarchical country. America is not a communist country. People have got the right to protest. You have the right to protest. When you elect any people, now tell me one thing.
So what though? What does that mean? Like, so what if you have a right to protest? Is that, who cares? What does that have to do with anything?
No. Government has to care who is protesting for what. Government has to care because after 5 years term, they're going to again come down. They will have to come us to back the votes. So they will have to listen to us.
No. We're talking about what defines a terrorist, right? What is terrorism in the first place? And so far, every definition you've gave has a lot of holes in it, right? The first you said, they have to be doing something good for society. Well, and that means there's a lot of governments that are actually
I will explain you with just an example. Okay, let's give me a time. I will explain with an example. You say, I will talk about India. Mahatma Gandhi, if probably heard about him, Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, they fought for independence. They were rebels.
Okay.
They were freedom fighters. They were rebels. Fine. Second thing, the Naxal. Second thing, the Taliban, or in India we have called.
What about the IRA, the Irish Republican Army? Are they terrorists?
Sorry.
The Irish Republican Army. You ever heard of them?
No, I have never heard about them.
You ever heard of the Tamil Tigers?
No.
Never heard of the Tamil Tigers. They assassinated your president at some point in history.
Our president? No, I don't think any president.
They for sure got the president of Sri Lanka. I thought they also got the Indian president too. They killed two presidents.
No. He was the prime minister, not president.
He was the prime minister. They've committed all kinds of terrorist acts. But are you meaning to tell me that they're not a terrorist organization?
No, I think so. It was not a president. It was the prime minister, Rajiv Gandhi. I think so. Was it the prime minister?
It was a prime minister?
He was the prime minister. Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister.
Of Sri Lanka or India?
Of India.
Yeah, okay.
Who was
there
killed.
you go. I mean, he's killed your prime minister. I mean, I assume you've heard of this organization.
Yeah.
I would know, if a terrorist killed the president, I would be like, oh shit, I heard of
fine.
that.
Okay, I will just try to explain you one more example for my point. You see, I was talking about Mahatma Gandhi. I was talking about Jawaharlal Nehru, who fought for the independence. Can you still hear me?
But hang on. Okay. I understand the point you're making, but what about the Tamil Tigers? Are they terrorists or rebels?
From my point of view, they are the terrorists, not rebels.
And why? Well, why are they terrorists instead of rebels?
You say, from my point of view, they're terrorists. But from the viewpoint of Sri Lanka, probably they're the rebels. Probably they're the rebels.
Why? We're talking about your view only here. Why do you believe that they're terrorists? Well, why are they terrorists rather than rebels?
Why are they terrorists? Yes. You see, when I talk about a prime minister, is the prime minister of India. So when they have been doing something, when they kill the prime minister, or when they try to slaughter a prime minister, I mean, it's a loss for my nation. When my nation has been in loss, when my nation has gone down only because of those organizations, obviously they're terrorists for me. They can be rebels, they can be heroes for their country. But for me, they're terrorists.
You're basically just asserting that they're terrorists, but you can't come up with a logically consistent definition of the word that we could use objectively. Like anyone could take an objective look.
I want to say here one thing, that terrorist organizations has not been active recently. Ages and ages back, terrorists were there. Thing is that till date we don't have any internationally defined terrorism. Even the UN is unable to define what is terrorist. So it must be a perspective.
Each definition you keep giving, there's a hole in each one, and then so basically you have to just keep coming back to, well, I don't like them, so they're terrorists.
Okay, then I will ask you a question. Why do you think terrorists are not equal to rebels?
Well, I think terrorism is a made-up word. I mean, it's a totally just fabricated term. It doesn't actually describe anything. I guess the best definition, the accurate one I could come up with, would have to involve suicide bombings and stuff like that. But there's not a clear distinction between that and dropping a bomb from a plane. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just a different way to do it, I guess. I don't see how flying a drone is any braver than blowing yourself up with a suicide vest.
Well, I mean, you are focusing on the Middle East activities, right? Well, but
no, I'm saying there. What is terrorism? It's nothing. It's just there's war, there's fighting, there's people at war, but it's not like a real word that we can. It doesn't have a clear definition. It's a word that we apply to other people. Like we're othering them essentially. We're saying like we're good people. We don't do terrorism. The terrorists do terrorism. We're at war.
You see, I believe, or I agree with my perspective. Terrorism has got a very different definitions according to different countries. For me, Pakistan's government is terrorist, whereas for Pakistan, India,
why is their government terrorist?
Because they sponsor terrorism. They've attacked India so many times.
What do they
kill our people?
What is terrorism and what are they sponsoring exactly? Because I think
sponsoring. If I go on defining the sponsoring of terrorism in Pakistan, it will be like completely mess. Starting from Taliban, Al Qaeda.
You're using the word in the definition though. You're saying, oh, they're terrorists because they sponsor terrorism. Okay, what is that? What are they sponsoring? Because I think what you're really trying to say is they're sponsoring radical Islamic jihad, and that's synonymous with terrorism, right?
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah. I agree that's the common view and the common definition, but what I'm saying is that there is no real meaning behind it. It doesn't mean anything. Essentially, they're just rebels who have crazy views.
They're not rebels. They're not rebels.
Well, they are. I mean, they're rebelling against the government.
Network is not rebel. No, Haqqani Network is not rebels. Al Qaeda are not rebels. Taliban
are not rebels. They are rebels. No. They're rebelling against every government in the world.
No, fine. They're rebelling against which government?
Government.
The government of India. No, they're rebelling against the government of India.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, from that point of view, they are rebels. But what if they are making all those bullshit bomb blasts in Pakistan? What if they're doing all these things in Pakistan?
They probably want to take over Pakistan too. You ever think about that?
No, I know that they want to take over Pakistan. That means they are neither bothered about their society or that of
Well,
India. So how
how
can
do
it
you
be
know
good
they
for
don't
society?
intend? How do you know they don't think that that's going to improve society if they take over the government and implement their policies? I mean, how do
It's
you
not,
know?
I know. I just want to say here one thing. A little knowledge is very dangerous thing. This Taliban groups or what terrorist groups are there in at Pakistan, which have been active on the ISI, they don't have much knowledge about how to rule a country. It's not just a game of just taking a bullet. Just taking a gun and say that you do whatever I say. No, government is something which should have that particular capability. What is service the terrorist attack? It doesn't know even how to speak, how to behave with the people. How can it work out the society? Terrorists are something which requires to show their power, which always wants that let us
Wait,
show what power we have.
hang on a second. Governments demonstrate their power all the time. They seek power. They seek wealth. That's what taxation is. Governments typically think that they're doing something good for society, and all these
Government,
groups, like the Taliban, fits this description. They are the same. They think they're doing the best for society. They want to implement their policies. They're fighting against the proclaimed central government in Kabul. So again, we're left with
okay,
Taliban. The
um,
Taliban are rebels. They are, in
fine,
fact,
okay.
rebels.
Shall I ask you a question? I want to ask you a question. Okay, uh, okay. Say me one thing. Terrorist organizations, do they have any nationality?
What's a terrorist organization?
I mean, what do you consider them as rebels? So, do they have any nationality? I mean, do they have any nationality
Well, I don't
or
know
that
because
proves that they have?
it's a broad category, right? Like, if you are you talking about like the official State Department list of terrorist organizations? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean that when I'm talking about any nation, I mean that how come we know that that particular terrorist is of Pakistan? How come we know that that particular terrorist is of Syria? I mean to ask that. I want to ask that. Each and every human being in the world has got nationality. Someone is going to join
Oh,
IS.
hang on. Do you mean like they have countries? They're from countries? Because those aren't
Yeah, I
real
mean to say
countries.
that.
Those aren't like
I mean
real
to say that.
countries at all.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I mean, because like you could say I'm American. Yeah, I have a U.S. passport. I'm an American citizen, but it's not like a real thing.
No, I what I mean to say is that you say every human in this world has got nationality. One or the other, he or she has to belong to one particular nation, right? I am from India, someone is from America. Now, point is that if I become Indian and go to the ISIS to join there, I will become illegal in the eyes of the Indian law. So they will be treated, I'll be treated as criminal. The Indian government will treat me as criminal. Similarly, those terrorists, they have to be from some one country or the other, really from all the countries. So those are
But
considered
if you
terrorists and
recognize
illegal.
that government, who cares what they say? Who cares if they say that you're a terrorist? Why would that matter? I mean, what? It's equally true if the terrorist says no, they're the terrorists, we're the legitimate government. I mean, it's entirely subjective.
Okay, I'll just say one thing once more that terrorist, yeah, it's true. Whatever you were saying, that government can also be terroristic sometimes. But to say, from my perspective, one country can be a terrorist for another country, whereas for another country, my country may be a terrorist for that country. Whereas in case of rebels are are confined within their particular nation and within a particular region. They do not cross their borders of nationality. Can you still hear me?
Oh, is that right? So let's say in the case of World War II, when the Nazis were taking over parts of Europe, we had they had people joining the resistance from America. What were they? Were they rebels or terrorists? They're not French, obviously. So
In a particular case, you say it's a past event. So that was a world war. It was, I think, so it was
no, but
happened.
I'm saying like every time you come up with a definition, I find a contradiction in it. So there's Americans who fought in the French resistance, went to a different country, fought against the government of that country. Based
Fine,
on what you
because
just said, that's
if no,
terrorism.
no,
You just said that.
no, No, I said if they are contained inside their own nationality, that's rebel, and if they across their border, that's terrorism. I was saying that. And whatever you're
Okay, but
talking
that's
about
what
the
they did.
wall,
They went to France and joined the resistance. So that
sorry,
makes them terrorists, right?
no, but you see, I can if it is my wish, I can go to America and take the national, I mean the citizenship of America. So if they want to rebel against the own government, that's fine for them. It's their wish. But it was not like that they have been doing alone. Na? The country was together with them. It was a war. It was a world war. So I don't think we can equalize it to the present condition. It was a world war.
But
I
why
mean,
would
it was
I mean we have someone from one country going to another country and fighting against that government. That's literally the same, well, not literally, but it's the same scenario that you described between Pakistan and India, right? Like they're going to a different
yeah,
country and fighting. Well, that's
yes,
the same thing. That's the exact same thing.
it's true. That's
And
the
what
if
I'm
I go,
saying is that it depends on your perspective, right? I would say that, okay, well, the American who's fighting in the French, it's good that they're resisting. So, you can call them a terrorist, but that's a meaningless word.
no, okay, you say at the present world, the most, I mean, that particular situation or that particular thing which is terrifying each and everyone is terrorism, terrorism, terrorism. Now the attack on America on 9/11, it was a terrorist attack. Fine. The
Why was it
attack
a terrorist attack?
okay, once again, the attack in India in Mumbai 2000, I mean in the 90s, it was a terrorist attack.
But
Do you
why
consider
was
the
hang
attack?
on, hang
No,
on.
no.
Why was 9/11 a terrorist attack?
Okay, fine. That's what I'm asking. For America, 9/11 was a terrorist attack. For Indians, the attack on Mumbai is a terrorist attack. Now, it may be that 9/11 attack was not a terrorist attack for Pakistan. It may be the 9/11 attack was a
Okay.
terrorist attack for the neighboring
Okay,
country.
so it's a
But
it's a meaningless subjective term. So you basically agree with me then, right? Because different people can have different views. And there's no
no, I
there's
don't
no
agree.
way
It
to say.
cannot be baseless. No, it can be baseless. Because you see, yes, it's true. When a country sponsors
Like
terrorism and attack other,
I can objectively say I can describe what Earth is, for example. I can say it's a planet, it's a third one. I can give various dimensions and things like that. You can't do that with terrorism, right? You
well,
because
if you think,
with terrorism, it's not going to be like with the Earth. It doesn't matter what your perspective is. I mean, these are just facts. It's an objective fact. And in the case of terrorism, it's not a fact. It's just a meaningless subjective term that we use. I mean, it's not a fact at all. Just a word. I mean, it's
well,
a meaningless subjective word. That's all it is.
it cannot be meaningless because okay, no, actually the topic was that whether terrorists can be equated or not to rebels. So you say
Well,
what
I mean,
I
of
was
course
actually
they
trying
can.
to
I mean,
explain.
of course they can. Anyone can equivocate. Anyone can say, no,
Okay,
those aren't rebels. They're terrorists. Anyone can say that. I mean,
fine
that's
in
what
even
Bashar
if
al-Assad says. Like our government says, no, our government saying, no, ISIS and Al-Qaeda are rebels. Assad saying, no, they're terrorists. I mean, is there an objective way to determine this?
I say only one thing for that. The main thing to distinguish between terrorists and rebels is number one was that whether they work for society's benefit or whether they work for themselves.
But they
Now you
do
say one
think
thing.
they, but hang on,
No,
since
no.
there's no objective way for us to say whether or not someone's working for society's benefit, right? Because to me, it's not clear that the Saudi government is working towards society's benefit, and there's a lot of terrorists who want to overthrow that government. So,
You mean Saudi Arabia?
yeah, Saudi Arabia. Do you think they're
Why don't
working
you
for
think?
society's benefit?
Why don't you
How do
think
you
Saudi
know
Arabia is
that?
not working for society? Why don't you think? I just want to ask you.
What? What's your question?
Why don't you think that Saudi Arabia's government is not working for society?
Well, I think that's bad for society, right? I support liberty and freedom and things like that, and
It's good. It's good that no. It's true that liberty and freedom should be there, but conservative is something which must be also be there because
Okay, well,
I
maybe that's what ISIS thinks. Maybe they think we need more Islam. I mean, I don't know. They're kind of like the Saudi government, I guess, in that sense.
yeah. No, in
So how
Saudi
do you
Arabia,
know?
issues of
So how do you know that? How do you know they're not working for society's benefit, at least in their own minds?
well, if I talk about Saudi Arabia's government, whatever, as per I know, there may restrictions on women because they're considered to be the most conservative countries in the whole world. And probably that is one of the reasons I think so why they're not often rape cases over there. It's a benefit for them. But recently it was like many of the restrictions are overthrown. So one or the other, they have been working in society. It's not that they are not working. Liberty should be there, I do agree. But they work in society. And if there exist any terrorist organizations, they are said to be illegal. I mean, any organization which is illegal in the eyes of the laws of a particular nation, that is a terrorist. That's a terrorist organization.
So
And
anything.
those who are legal,
So it's up to
yes,
the government to determine who terrorists are, right?
yes, you are right. If anything, if there is
So
anything
like
which
the
is
Syrian
legal,
government
it's a rebel. It's
says
a rebel. Yes,
the Syrian government says every rebel group in Syria is a terrorist. So that makes it true, right? According to your logic.
yes, it's true. If the government says that they're terrorists, that means they're terrorists.
And the government of Turkey says that the Kurds are terrorists. Now, by your
It
logic,
may
that
be.
makes it a fact, right?
It
They're
has to be.
terrorists.
Yeah, it's true. I do agree. I'm
So the
saying
Kurds are
probably for
terrorists.
no. Probably for your country, probably for other countries, they may not be. But for a particular country, they're terrorists.
Okay,
That's what
so
I'm
it's
talking
a
about
less
terrorists.
subjective term, right? It depends on your perspective entirely, and there's no objective way to
No,
use
when
it.
it depends upon our perspective, how can it be meaningless? It has got a meaning. We cannot say because anything
Well, no
which is
deeper,
illegal.
maybe. Let's say that it doesn't have any kind of. You can't have a meaningful discussion
Yeah,
about it.
thing is that okay, fine. It is meaningless. That it is meaningless. I do agree. If it is based on our perspective, but if that organization is internationally said to be banned, then it is a terrorist organization for a whole world. So that is what terrorists. If it is
But
banned
well, hang on.
illegally in the whole
What if
world,
they don't think they're terrorists? Don't. What about their opinion? Does that count for anything?
they're bullshit. I don't want to listen what their opinions are given because they're every time going on killing the people. They're every time going on hampering the society. So I don't think so. We require their opinion. So
Hmm.
if they're internationally said to be illegal, so that's what I'm talking about terrorist organizations. If they're declared to be international terrorist organization, that means they're terrorist organization. That's what.
So if a group of countries got together and said that the government of India was a terrorist organization and like all the countries agreed, would you say that would be true? Would that would make it true and that's now a fact?
No. To prove that that's a terrorist organization or there's an international terrorist organization, there has to be some evidence to prove. And I do agree. If my
Wait. No,
government,
but
I mean, if our government,
what evidence? Hang on. What evidence for what? Because you said it's based on.
evidence is the same. Yes, evidence should be there. No one can just say this organization to be terroristic, or no one can just declare the organization to be international. For that, we require evidences. We require witnesses. We require proofs. If today Taliban has been announced as international organizations of terrorism, that means there are some existing proofs and evidences. So if in
But
future,
what
if India does something, if India
evidence
does
of
some terrorist activities,
evidence
then
of what?
obviously
Like you're you're using completely circular logic. Evidence of what?
evidence of attacking a particular nation, evidence of attacking the society, evidences of hampering the humanity, evidence of making a society worse for the people. That's what I'm talking about evidences, and those are the witness, and the
So,
witness are the
but
people.
the things you just mentioned, governments do all of those.
No,
Yeah.
government does it. I mean, the government doesn't do it. Have you ever seen government destroying the humanity? Have you ever seen the government working for the worst of the people? Have you ever seen government not listening to the people? Have you ever seen that? No,
Yeah.
you cannot see it.
I sure have. I mean, would you call the Holocaust terrorism? Is what is that exactly? That was
Sorry,
the government. The Holocaust. You ever heard of the Holocaust?
no, I have never heard.
So like in World War II, they killed like 9 million Jews or something like that. Ever heard of that?
Fine. If you trace back to the World War, I have always said that was the open war. It is like anyway you come in 5 years and whoever wins will rule wins. So that is totally different.
No,
The
but
things
I never heard of that. I mean, for sure, I know there's a lot of governments who did all the things that you're describing. It's not. What about Pol Pot? I mean,
You
Chairman
see,
Mao,
if the
Stalin.
okay, fine, okay, you say you are saying that government has been doing, yeah, fine. If the government has been doing something like that, if the government has been doing something like that, probably the next tenure of that particular government will exist no longer because they only get a 5 year
But
term. So
is that
after the 5 year
terrorism though? Is that terrorism?
it is not terrorism
It's not terrorism.
because government it's not terrorism because it's just can you just imagine the president will sit on his chair and say let us harass the people, let us torture the people and just do anything which you want. No, it may be something mistaken or it is something like misunderstood that if probably it may be something like that, that the government thought that if they do this thing it will be benefit of society, but it turned out to be the alternative or it turned out to be contradictory to that particular statement. So it's not terrorism. They try to do for society, probably, but probably owing to various circumstances,
So
it
okay.
did not
So
happen.
as long as you're trying to do good for society by your own standards, that means you're not doing terrorism, right?
No, it's not even terrorism. And when you were
Okay,
claiming that Taliban's okay,
the Taliban is doing exactly like within their own minds. They are doing something for society. They're improving society. They're getting people closer to Allah. Blah blah blah.
there, okay, I do you agree? Okay, fine. This all particular Taliban's or Haqqani networks, I don't understand how you mean by killing people, by harassing the people, how can you bring society closer? It's a really, I
Okay,
mean,
you've already said that results and consequences don't matter because how the fuck is killing 9 million Jews going to improve society, right? Like it doesn't.
results and
Improving
consequences do not
society
matter.
is not a
Results
requirement.
and consequences, okay, fine, fine. Results and consequences doesn't matter, that's true. But it may be for a first term. A government is not foolish to implement a particular law which has already failed once upon another. If a government has passed a particular law at present and if it fails, tomorrow they will not pass the same law. But as Taliban, these are all hopeless and stupid characters which have been doing the same thing. How by killing people one can develop a society? Isn't this something foolish?
Well, what if
You
you're
just see, I
only
don't.
what if you're only killing the infidels and people who don't support you? Maybe in their minds that's gonna, they're gonna get rid of all the foreigners and all the occupiers and their collaborators.
Even killing people is not justified by anything. Killing people is not justified.
But
They
then
cannot kill.
what are we doing over there then? We're killing people.
No, the government is not killing people. How can you say the government is killing people? How can you
Because
say
people
government is killing
died in
people?
war. What do you think we're
That was
doing?
a war. No, no, that was a war. To defend their nation, they have to attack the other nation. That was a war. Wars cannot be equated to terrorist attack.
Okay, but they're at
War
war
cannot,
too. You understand? They're at war too. So
no, we have never declared
if
war.
we're gonna give ourselves the right to kill people because we're at war, well, they're
No,
at
we are not
war
at war.
too. So that means they
They
have
are
a
at
right
war. No,
also.
no, they are at war, but we are not at war. They are at war, but we are
What are
not
we
at war.
doing in Afghanistan? What is the U.S. government, in your mind, what do you think that we're doing in Afghanistan right now?
I don't have to say anything about that because
Well, okay,
if you talk about the U.S. Okay, fine. If you talk about the U.S. government or any other government, you're just claiming that the government is not fine. But from a perspective, probably the government is doing such things probably to I mean to safeguard or defend their own nation or to do something for the society's benefit. It is not just it cannot just how can you think the government will just go on killing people? Probably there is a hidden
well,
agenda behind.
why do you think the people you're describing as terrorists are just killing people randomly? Maybe there's a point to it. Maybe they have a goal. You ever think about that?
Just say me by uh, killing people in a stadium who are watching a live matches, by
Mhm.
killing people in a malls, by killing children, by killing the army personnel, by physically abusing the by
But we
physically
bomb
abusing the
weddings, we
girls.
bomb schools, we bomb hospitals, we bomb residential areas. Same shit, right?
I don't understand
All
when
you're
this.
saying, the only thing you're saying is like, oh well, we're not trying to do that, right? We're bombing these weddings, but our intent is not to bomb weddings. right? Well, how do you know they don't have a different intent? What if they're not just bombing stadiums just to watch people blow up? What if they have some goal in mind and they're trying to accomplish
Fine,
something?
okay, fine. I will say one here. If the US government is doing something, okay, we have got 197 countries, 197 countries in the world. If the US government, if the Syrian government, if the Iran government is doing so, they are terrorists. And in case, and because other countries are not that, so they're not terrorists. If for you, I mean, US is not terrorist for me because I've never known what they have been doing in Syria because I've never gone through it. But I will think I have to probably go through it what it has been doing because I am never up to date about that particular Western countries. So
Well,
for
hang
other
on.
countries of the world,
So if all the countries say that someone's a terrorist, that makes them a terrorist? Is that what you said?
yes, if
Okay,
all the countries agree that this particular
what if all the countries say Gandhi was a terrorist? That would be an objective fact, right?
yes, Gandhi was a terrorist. If that would be said by the other people of the world, they can accept it, but it will not accepted by India. For India, Gandhi is,
So Gandhi
our
was a
father.
terrorist. Was Gandhi a terrorist?
He was a rebel. He never took the arms.
Okay, but what
He never took arms.
what if every country said that he was a terrorist? Then he would be a terrorist, right?
No. If every country says that Gandhi is a terrorist, we'll fight to claim that he was not a terrorist. We'll try to make people understand he is. We'll try to provide. I mean, we'll try to explain them.
Okay, but what if that
Explain
didn't work?
them.
What if they didn't agree and they said no, he's a terrorist? Then it's
Fine.
true, right?
Okay, then we'll not say anything. For
What?
Indians, he's our hero. For Indians, he'll be our hero.
I know, but what I'm telling you is that
I'm saying
you
it
don't
only.
have a logically
Okay.
consistent.
Logically, yes. If the other countries think that Gandhi is terrorist, well, let them accept it because we don't care what they care about our nation father. We'll
So
care
it's
about
not true
ourselves
then.
that he is
So
not
it's not
terrorist.
true. So it doesn't matter what the other countries say. That doesn't make it true, and that doesn't make it a fact.
Fine. No. You are correct in your point. Say, Taliban is not a terrorist for them, but they're terrorists for me. They're terrorists for my nation. They're terrorists for America. They're terrorists for the other countries. That's the point. That is the point.
Well,
What is happening?
I just want to establish that you have no logically consistent argument of any kind. It's entirely based. Well, this is what I think, or this is what I feel. Right? There's no real logic to it, right? Because like every single example you've given me.
Everything, it is not necessarily each and everything should have a logic. Because sometimes we require to depend upon the humanity. If today America is doing something against Syria which is totally wrong, yes, we all will regret about that.
If we don't have logic,
logic,
then what's wrong with blowing up stadiums? I mean, so long as we're not using logic, what's wrong with that?
I say that it's not only always the logic, but it always matters about humanity. And those bloodshot terrorists are not humans.
Well, who cares about humanity? Who cares about humanity? So if we're not using logic,
all cares about humanity. We are human beings. If there would exist no humanity in this world, probably we would not have been survived till date. Humanity is something which we require. That is what humanity I was talking about.
But so what though? If we're not using logic, why would that matter?
If there is no humanity, can you just imagine a world without no humanity? A person is lying, dead in the streets and no one goes and picks him up to the hospital. Can you just imagine such a world? No. We require humanity because we are human beings. We are human beings.
So logic is important.
Logic is important, but not in every case. As witness and evidences cannot justify particular judgment of a criminal because sometimes it depends upon humanity and emotions. Similarly, always the logic will not work. We have to see if terrorist organizations do not work for humanity. They're all inhuman creatures. Can you just imagine? Can a government kill a 1-year-old kid? Just tell me one thing. Have you ever seen a government killing a 1-year-old kid?
Yes.
Unintentionally, if they have done, that's fine.
Yes.
But in case it is
to all the above, I have seen that.
You have seen it, but the government intentionally has not done it. It may be in due course of time. But in case of Taliban, in case of terrorists, they know intentionally they have slaughtered 1-year-old girl.
Pol Pot intentionally did all that. So yeah, we've definitely seen that before. I mean, I've been to the killing fields in Cambodia. That was a real thing. They took kids by the feet and bashed them against trees. That was the government.
If there was a government, that means that there's a terrorist. If they have done something against humanity, or
But
if they have been doing
earlier you said
definitely,
governments can't be terrorists.
yeah, I said governments can be terrorists. Governments can be terrorists. I said a government can be terrorist for one more country, but governments within themselves cannot. What I'm saying is that India